Soft footsteps against marble. The scent of polished wood and expensive cologne lingers in the air. The night outside is silent, but inside the penthouse, the weight of power and deception hangs thick. I've spent years being invisible, moving in the shadows, cleaning up after lives that will never notice mine. The people who live in these walls, they don't look at me. They don't hear me. And that's the way it should be. But tonight, I wish I had stayed deaf to their world. As I move through the dimly lit corridor, cloth in hand, the faint hum of conversation stops me in my tracks. The office door is cracked open, just enough for sound to spill out, for whispers to snake their way into the silence. By morning, he'll be finished. The voice is unmistakable, Victoria Lennox. Poised, perfect Victoria, the woman who wears wealth like a second skin. Damien Callahan's fiancée. A slow, sinking feeling creeps through me as another voice follows. Low, smooth, and sharp enough to cut glass. He'll never see it coming, Julian Callahan murmurs. Everything's in place. The press will eat it up. Fraud, embezzlement, corruption. It'll look airtight. I can't move. I can't breathe. They're not talking about a business rival. They're talking about Damien. They're setting him up. I press my hand to the wall, trying to steady myself. The weight of what I've just heard is suffocating. If they do this, if this gets out, by the time Damien wakes up, his legacy, his power, everything he built will be gone, and he won't even know who put the knife in his back. My pulse pounds in my ears. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have heard this. I take a slow step back. Then another. My heart slams against my ribs as I turn. Crash! The sound shatters the silence. A vase, one of those ridiculous, overpriced decorations, lies in shards at my feet. And then silence. Cold. Dead. Silence. Then click. The unmistakable sound of heels. Measured. Unhurried. I can feel the weight of their presence on the other side of the door. Did you hear that? Victoria's voice is sharper now, the warmth gone. Someone's here, Julian murmurs. A pause. Find out who. I don't think. I don't breathe. I run. My feet slap against marble, my breath ragged as I dart down the corridor, weaving through the maze of luxury that suddenly feels like a cage. I can hear them behind me. Footsteps, movement, voices calling out, but I don't look back. I don't stop. I throw open the service door, slipping into the stairwell, the cold night air hitting my skin like a slap. I'm shaking. I don't know where I'm going, but I know one thing. I can't go back. Not after what I heard. Not after tonight. I don't sleep. I stare at the cracks in my ceiling, at the dim light bleeding through my paper-thin curtains, at the phone beside me, silent, motionless, but filled with a secret that could upend everything. I keep hearing their voices. By morning, he'll be finished. Everything's in place. Fraud, embezzlement, corruption. It'll look airtight. I squeeze my eyes shut, but their words claw at me, refusing to fade. I can almost see it play out. Damien waking up to chaos, blindsided, betrayed, his empire turned to rubble, while Julian and Victoria walk away victorious. Would he even fight back? Or would he be too stunned, too heartbroken, to see the knife sticking out his back? I shift onto my side, gripping my blanket as if I can squeeze the anxiety out of me. I shouldn't be thinking about this. It's not my place. It's not my problem. But I know I'm lying to myself. Victoria was always kind to me, not in the way that real kindness looks. No warmth, no sincerity. But she smiled. She acknowledged me. When the other elites barely spare me a glance, Victoria would sometimes ask me if I'd eaten or if I was tired. She gave me the occasional expensive hand-me-down, things I could never afford on my own. And yet, that same woman whispered poison behind closed doors, crafting Damien's downfall with precision of someone who had planned it for months. Do I owe her my silence? Or do I owe the truth to the man who doesn't even know I exist? Damien Callahan is a name, a shadow, a presence that looms over Callahan Industries. I've never spoken to him. He doesn't know I work in his house. He doesn't know that while he sat in his corner office, believing in his family and his fiancée, they were sharpening their knives. And me? I'm no one, just a maid. A nobody. Would my voice even matter? Or would I be crushed the second I tried? I see it so clearly. Damien's face plastered on every news channel, the headlines screaming corruption at Callahan Industries. His reputation reduced to a scandal, his power gone overnight. Julian would take his place. Victoria would stand by his side. And Damien would drown. The thought makes me sick. I can't let it happen. But if I step forward, I put myself in their crosshairs. And people like Victoria and Julian don't just let problems walk away. I sit up in bed, my fingers curling into the sheets. My heart is pounding, but this time it's not from fear. It's from something else. Something burning. Something refusing to let me close my eyes and pretend I never heard anything at all. I swing my legs off the bed, grab my phone, and open a blank message. My hands shake as I type. Damien Callahan is about to be betrayed. I hesitate, then start again. Short, direct, just enough to make him look, just enough to make him act. I write everything, Julian, Victoria, the fabricated evidence, the deadline. Then, before I can overthink it, I hit send. I delete the message from my outbox, wipe my phone clean, and place it face down on the nightstand. There's no going back now. The waiting is worse than the decision. Every second feels like an eternity. I go to work as usual, scrubbing floors, dusting shelves, moving like a ghost through the penthouse. But I can't stop looking over my shoulder. Did he get the message? Did he believe it? Or worse, did Victoria and Julian find out what I did? Every time my phone buzzes, I feel my heart seize. Every time someone looks at me for a second too long, I imagine security dragging me away. Nothing happens. Hours pass. Then an entire day. Then I hear it. The shift. The air in the penthouse is different. Tighter. Heavier. Whispers spread among the staff. Hushed and cautious. Mr. Callahan's been making calls all morning. Something's wrong. I move through the halls, acting as if I don't hear, as if my blood isn't roaring in my ears. Then my name comes through the intercom. Elena Vasquez. Report to the CEO's office. For a second, I forget how to breathe. Damien Callahan is a storm in human form. He sits behind his massive desk, crisp suit perfect, hands folded, but his eyes, cold, unreadable, lock onto mine the second I step inside. For the first time, he looks at me, really looks at me, tell me everything. His voice is calm. Too calm. I swallow hard. Don't lie to me. I feel it then. The weight of his scrutiny, the barely contained rage just beneath his controlled exterior. I could turn back now, play dumb, walk away. But I don't, because I see it. The cracks in his composure. The flicker of something raw in his eyes. He knows. And if I don't tell him, he'll never trust what I sent. So I do. I tell him everything. Every word I heard. Every cruel intention. I watch his jaw tighten, his fingers clench. When I say Victoria's name, a muscle in his cheek twitches. He exhales slowly, and when he finally speaks, his voice is quieter. They planned this for months. It's not a question. I nod. For a moment, the room is silent. Then Damien shifts, straightens, and when he looks at me again, something in him has hardened. You said they have evidence, he says. Where? I hesitate. Julian's office. His private files. Damien's expression doesn't change. Security's tight. He mutters, almost to himself. If I send someone in, he'll see it coming. Then, suddenly, his gaze flicks back to me. And I know. I shake my head. No, absolutely not. You're the only one who can do it. I let out a sharp laugh. I'm a maid, not... You're invisible, he cuts in smoothly. You can walk in and out without anyone looking twice. My hands curl into fists. If they catch me, they won't. He says it like it's a fact, like there's no room for doubt. And then he leans forward, his voice lowering. You want to clean houses for the rest of your life? He asks. Or do you want to change everything? The words sink in, heavy, suffocating. I stare at him, at the man who just found out his own blood and his own fiancée are betraying him. at the man who holds a kind of power I will never understand, at the man who is giving me a choice. I can walk away, or I can step into a world where people like me don't belong. My heart pounds as I meet his gaze, and I already know my answer. I keep my head down as I walk through the dimly lit corridors of Callahan Industries. The cleaning cart in front of me rattles slightly, the wheels catching on the edge of the expensive marble floor. I force myself to move at the same pace I always do, unbothered, unnoticed. To them, I'm invisible. Just another maid. Another pair of hands scrubbing away the remnants of their wealth and excess. That's my only advantage tonight. I reach Julian's office, my fingers tightening on the cart handle. I scan the hallway. Empty. Security is 2 floors down, making their rounds. Now or never. I slip inside. The room smells of leather and expensive cologne, the air thick with the arrogance of power. I don't have much time. Moving quickly, I scan the shelves, the desk, the cabinets. Nothing. Then my eyes catch the glint of metal, a locked drawer. Of course. I drop to my knees, my hands working fast. It's not the first time I've had to pick a lock. Sometimes, when rent was due and work was scarce, you learn how to survive. The lock clicks. My breath catches as I ease the drawer open. And there it is, pages of financial records, offshore accounts, fake contracts, and at the center of it all, evidence framing Damien for fraud. I flip through them, my heart racing. This isn't just a power move. This is a complete destruction of his name, his credibility, his entire empire. I grab my phone, snapping picture after picture. Then, I take a few originals and shove them into my pocket. Proof. Undeniable proof. I exhale, my hand still shaking. It's done. I just have to leave. I stand, turn toward the door, and freeze. A slow clap echoes through the room. Julian stands in the doorway, his figure silhouetted against the warm glow of the hallway lights. Victoria leans against the doorframe beside him, arms crossed, her lips curled into a smirk. Going somewhere? She purrs. Julian steps inside, shutting the door behind him with deliberate slowness. The sound of it latching sends a spike of fear through me. Victoria tilts her head, eyes gleaming with amusement. "Oh, Elena," she sighs, like she's disappointed but not surprised. A maid with sticky fingers? How very predictable. My grip tightens around the stolen documents in my pocket. Give them to me. Julian's voice is calm, smooth, controlled. The kind of voice that doesn't need to shout to be terrifying. I swallow hard. No. His expression doesn't change, but the air in the room shifts, thick with tension, the weight of unspoken threats pressing down on me. Victoria's heels click against the floor as she steps closer. "You really thought you could outplay us?" she murmurs, tilting her head like she's assessing a wounded animal. "That you could just waltz in here, steal from us, and walk away?" I say nothing. She lets out a soft laugh, almost pitying. "Sweetheart, you're nothing. You have no power, no protection. You don't belong in this world." I lift my chin. "Neither do snakes like you." Victoria's smirk vanishes. Julian takes a step forward, and I brace myself. If they take the documents, it's over. Damien will lose everything, and I'll disappear just like they'll make me. I force myself to stand tall, to meet Julian's cold gaze. I won't beg, not to them. If this is the end, I won't let them see me break. But then, the door swings open again. Footsteps, confident, unhurried. Actually, a voice cuts through the silence, smooth as silk. She already has. I turn just as Damien Callahan steps inside. For the first time, Julian's expression flickers. Damien stands in the doorway, his presence shifting the entire energy of the room. He's calm, too calm, but there's something dangerous in his eyes. "Damien," Victoria breathes, her voice carefully measured. "Save it." His voice is quiet, but sharp enough to slice through the air like a knife. Julian recovers fast, stepping forward. "Brother," he says smoothly, "I think you've been—" Damien holds up a hand, and Julian goes silent. He turns to me. "Do you have it?" I nod. Slowly, I pull the documents from my pocket and hand them over. Damien takes his time flipping through them. Then, he pulls a USB drive from his pocket and tosses it onto Julian's desk. "Everything you've done," he says simply. "I have it all." Julian's jaw tightens. Damien closes a folder and finally looks up, his gaze burning into his brother. "Did you really think I wouldn't see through you?" Victoria steps forward, her voice still honeyed, but there's an edge to it now. "Damien, baby, you're angry. I get it, but you have to know." His eyes snap to her. "Don't." She falls silent. I watch as she swallows hard, her confidence wavering for the first time. "Julian," Damien says, turning back to his brother, "you're finished." Julian lets out a dry chuckle. "And what exactly are you to do?" Damien smiles. It's slow, deliberate, and ruthless. "I already have." The weight of his words sinks in. Julian and Victoria exchange a glance, and I know they understand. It's over. Damien has been one step ahead of them all along, and now they're the ones who've lost. The world learns the truth before Julian and Victoria can control the narrative. By the time the first headline drops, it's already too late for them. Callahan family scandal. Betrayal and fraud exposed. Julian Callahan and Victoria Lennox caught in corporate sabotage. Damien Callahan clears his name, the brother and fiancé who tried to destroy him. It spreads like wildfire. The media devours every detail, broadcasting their downfall on every screen, in every paper, in every whispered conversation in high society. Victoria's carefully curated image, the perfect socialite, the poised fiancé of an empire's heir, is shattered. Julian, the once powerful rival to his older brother, is now a public disgrace. And Damien? He walks out unscathed. No, stronger. The wolves had circled, but he was the one left standing. I watched the press conference unfold from the shadows. Damien stand before a sea of flashing cameras, his expression unreadable, composed. "The allegations against me were nothing more than an attempt to undermine this company from within," he states, his voice steady, controlled. "The true criminals were those I trusted most, my own brother and the woman I was meant to marry." The crowd erupts in questions. Journalists scramble over each other to get his attention. "Mr. Callahan, what will happen to Julian?" "Victoria Lennox, was she involved from the start?" "Will Callahan Industries recover?" Damien waits. He lets the tension settle, lets the weight of his words linger before he answers. "I have cut them out completely. They no longer have any ties to this company. Their actions were calculated, their betrayal unforgivable, and now they will face the consequences of what they've done. Julian and Victoria were untouchable once. Now, they're standing in the wreckage of their own making. Victoria tries to salvage her dignity, even as everything crumbles around her. She's still beautiful, still poised, but the cracks are showing. She clutches at Julian's arm as the reporters hurl questions at her, but he shrugs her off like she's nothing more than a nuisance. I see the moment it hits her, the realization that without her connection to the Callahan name, she's nothing. She reaches for Julian again, desperate now, but even he won't let her drag him down any further. "This was your idea," he hisses under his breath. "You played your part. Now live with it." Victoria's breath stutters. Her entire life was built on proximity to power. And now, with one scandal, it's gone. I watch as she squares her shoulders, forces a smile for the cameras. But there's no coming back from this. The woman who once walked these halls like she owned them is now just another name in a scandal, a cautionary tale whispered about at high society galas. Julian's fall is harder. He doesn't go quietly. At first, he tries to play the victim. He calls the allegations false, claims Damien manipulated the narrative. But the evidence is airtight, and no one is willing to defend a sinking ship. Then he turns to threats. "You don't have the power to do this." He sneers at Damien when they meet in his office for the last time. Damien only smiles. "You made your choice." Security steps forward. Julian stiffens. "You can't do this," he snaps. "I built this company just as much as you did." "No, Julian." Damien's voice is quiet. "Final. You tried to steal it." The guards grab Julian's arms. He thrashes against their grip, But it doesn't matter. By the time they drag him out of the building, it's over. For Julian Callahan, there is no redemption. I expect to leave when it's all over, to return to the quiet, unnoticed life I had before. But as I stand at the back of the press conference, watching Damien put an end to his brother's reign, he turns, and his eyes land on me. I freeze. The weight of his gaze is different now. Not cold, not calculating. Something else. He walks toward me, his movements measured, his expression unreadable. I brace myself for dismissal. Instead, he says, "Come with me." His office is empty, except for us. Damien stands by the window, looking out at the city. I stay near the door, uncertain, waiting. Finally, he turns. "You changed everything." His voice is quiet but certain. I shake my head. "You would have figured it out." His gaze holds mine. Maybe, but not in time. A beat of silence stretches between us. Then, "I want you to stay." I blink. "What?" "I need someone I can trust," he continues. "Someone who isn't afraid to tell me the truth. Someone who's willing to stand their ground, no matter who they're up against." I don't understand. "You already have people like that." "No," he says simply. "I don't." The realization sinks in. The betrayal wasn't just about money or power. It was personal. The people closest to him, the ones he should have trusted, were the ones who tried to destroy him. And me? I was the only one who did the right thing. "I want you to take over as acting SIL while I restructure the company," Damien says. I feel my breath catch. "You're joking." "I don't joke. But I don't belong here." The words spill out before I can stop them. I don't have the experience, the connections. He cuts me off. "You had the courage to do what no one else did. That's more valuable than any title." I stare at him, the weight of his words pressing down on me. Yesterday, I was scrubbing these floors. Today, I'm being offered the keys to the empire. This world isn't mine. But maybe it could be. The next morning, I don't enter the building through the service door. I don't wear a uniform. I walk through the front doors, past the same people who never looked at me twice. They look now. I step into the CEO's office. The air is thick with the scent of power, leather, coffee, something rich and untouchable. I settle into the chair behind a massive desk. My hands grip the armrests. A single night changed everything. I don't belong here. At least, that's what they'll think. But they'll see. They'll all see. Let them underestimate me. They won't make that mistake twice.